It's Tuesday, July 8th, AD 2025. This is The Worldview in 5 minutes, written by Kevin Swanson and heard on 140 radio stations and at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. A member of a district legislative council in India has announced a bounty on Christian evangelists. In a public speech, BJP Legislative Assembly member Gopichan Padalkar allegedly issued a rate card for the assassination of various Christians, the highest amount offered for the killing of pastors. Members of the Christian community in the area are asking that police open a case against the legislator for inciting violence and spreading hatred. Under such treacherous conditions, would you pray for the safety of Christians in India? World News Group reports that Christians in Iran are losing hope now for any possible regime change. During the week following the U.S. strikes, 1,000 people were arrested and falsely accused of spying for Israel, many of whom were Christians. Some were executed. The report quotes a 40-year-old Christian woman. She said, quote, "Nobody welcomes wars. But at this point, war seems to be the most viable solution for a regime change. The oppressed people of Iran have used every opportunity to free themselves of this terrorist group in control. Every peaceful protest is cracked down upon in the most brutal way. We hope these conflicts would give us a chance to fight for freedom by having military forces eradicated by Israel, just like the Israeli Prime Minister promised us," end quote. An opinion survey conducted in 2022 by a Netherlands institute found that on a sample size of 158,000 people, over 80% of Iranians rejected the Islamic Republic and would prefer a democratically elected government. The latest count of the deceased in the Texas flooding tragedy has now reached 100, 27 of whom include children and counselors from a Christian girls' camp known as Camp Mystic, reports ABC News. Davin Williams, the camp nurse, was heartbroken.
We had no idea people were missing. We had no idea that they had to wade through water, barely able to stand to get to the pavilion. I didn't even realize the gravity of the situation until we saw helicopters flying over us.
Over the weekend, Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott called for a day of prayer. The governor said, quote, "This is a time when we, as a state, need God more than ever," end quote.
All we know is that prayer does work. Your prayers have made a difference. We ask for continued prayers as we continue our efforts to locate everybody who's been affected by this. Pray so much for the families who have lost a loved one, who are going through challenging times that they never imagined on the 3rd of July that something like this would happen. Prayer matters.
In less than 1 hour, the Guadalupe River had surged 26 feet up the banks, causing the majority of the wreckage. This looks like the worst disaster since the 1953 Waco tornado, which killed 114 people and injured another 597. Habakkuk 3, verse 2 is a cry for mercy. "O Lord, I have heard the report of you, and your work, O Lord, do I fear. In the midst of the years, revive it. In the midst of the years, make it known. In wrath, remember mercy." King Charles III and the royal family in London showed support for the annual homosexual Pride March via social media over the weekend. The Royal Family X account featured the royal band playing the iconic homosexual transgender anthem entitled Pink Pony Club, which was originally released by Chappell Roan. The royals drew attention to the sinful celebrations by adding to the caption, quote, hashtag Pride 2025, end quote, alongside emojis of a rainbow, disco ball, and sparkles. In reaction, one person wrote, quote, "What a terrible post. No wonder at the coronation the king chose not to say, 'Defender of the Faith.' The monarchy ended with our beloved late queen," end quote. And another asked, quote, "Isn't the king the head of the Church of England? He should not be promoting sins," end quote. 35,000 Brits participated in the march, supported also by the King's Royal Guard, reports Parade. Spain is considering a bill that would imprison pastors who employ any, quote, methods, programs, techniques, or procedures of aversion or conversion, whether psychological, physical, pharmacological, or of any other nature, intended to modify, repress, eliminate, or deny their sexual orientation, sexual identity, or gender expression, end quote, reports the Christian Post. The lower house approved the bill by an overwhelming vote of 311 to 33. Interestingly, Spain's gross domestic product has been in a slump for 16 years. Yesterday, President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff to be imposed on Japan and South Korea, and a 30% tariff on South African imports effective August 1st. The tariffs will be subject to negotiation, as the announcement suggested, perhaps a reconsideration, quote, depending on our relationship with your country, end quote, in Trump's words. South Africa has seen no measurable growth in its GDP this year. The nation's economy is stagnating. Also, both the South Korean and Japanese economies contracted slightly in the first quarter of this year. India is replacing Japan this year as the fourth largest economy in the world, according to initial estimates. Japan was the second largest economy in the world between 1988 and 2010, but its gross domestic product has not improved since 1995, 30 years ago. The International Monetary Fund projects that the BRICS eastern nations of China and India will take the number 2 and number 3 positions as the strongest economies in the world by 2030. Argentina's economy is doing better. Since President Javier Milei's election in 2023, the country's annual inflation rate has reduced from 211% in 2023 to 43% by mid-2025. Remarkably, Milei cut 27% of the state budget and laid off thousands of government employees in his first year in office, just last year, after which the economy took a small hit. But recovery appears to be on its way for Argentina. The nation's GDP got a 5.8% boost in the first quarter of 2025. The U.S. president's budget proposed for 2026 includes the identical base discretionary spending projection as Biden's previous budget, $1.6 trillion. The proposed budget includes an increase in spending of $155 billion for Homeland Security and Defense, and significant decreases in health and human services, housing and urban development, and international welfare programs. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting a $1.9 trillion deficit this year, the third highest deficit in American history. Keep in mind the biblical principle from Deuteronomy 15, verses 5 and 6. It says, "Carefully obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe with care all these commandments which I command you today. For the Lord your God will bless you, just as he promised you. You shall tend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. You shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you." And that's the worldview on this Tuesday, July 8th, in the year of our Lord 2025. Follow us on X or subscribe for free by Spotify, Amazon Music, or by iTunes or email to our unique Christian newscast at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. Seize the day for Jesus Christ.